Good morning. Thank you for joining me today for Monday Morning Devotion. Today we're going to look at Lesson 3 in my book, Encounters with God in the Battles of Life. This chapter is entitled Response to the Battle. Jehoshaphat's initial response to the battle of 2 Chronicles 20 is found in verses 3 through 12. And it starts out by saying, alarmed. You know, Jehoshaphat was alarmed. He was fearful. The news scared him of the enemies coming against God's people. And so fear will either drive us closer to God on our knees, or it will drive us farther away from God. And in this case, Jehoshaphat resolved to inquire of the Lord, and it drove him closer to the Lord. And it goes on to say that he proclaimed a fast for all Judah. The people of Judah came together to seek help from the Lord. Indeed, they came from every town in Judah to seek God. The next verses are all about Jehoshaphat's prayer that day. Solomon was Jehoshaphat's great-great-grandfather, and he was told by God that when things come against the people of God that they need to pray. We find that verse in 2 Chronicles chapter 7, verse 14. It says, if my people who are called by my name will humble themselves and pray and seek my face and turn from their wicked ways, then I will hear from heaven and I will forgive their sin and will heal their land. You know, many times we do everything but go to God. We call a friend, we search things out on Google, whatever. But Jehoshaphat's first response was to go to God in prayer. When we look at Jehoshaphat's prayer as well as the Lord's prayer, we see the anatomy of the prayer, and I go into this in a little more depth in the book. We see that he started out with recognizing who God was, remembering the past victories, reciting God's promises back to him, and then he came forward with his request. In the Lord's Prayer, Jesus included repentance as part of the anatomy of a prayer, as well as worship. And all of these things, when we have a battle in our life, it's a great way to come before the Lord and to pray in that manner. Prayer is our best defense and should be our first response to the battle, as it was for Jehoshaphat. In my book, in pages 67 through 68, I find that people misunderstand prayer, and it's really pretty cut and dried and pretty simple. It's basically communicating with God. But I wrote in this chapter, prayer was not intended for only those who wear a collar or who have a ministerial degree. Anyone who is alive and breathing is encouraged to bow their head in prayer and to God and seek his assistance. Prayer is not limited to a posture of folded hands or bowed head. A person can pray standing, kneeling, lying down in bed, walking, or lying flat on their face before God, with eyes wide open or with eyes tightly closed. Prayers can be spoken aloud or silently in the mind. Prayer is not restricted to a place. While prayer is most thought of as something that one does in church, prayers can be engaged in wherever one finds himself in need of prayer. Prayer is not intended to be ritualistic. Prayer does not have to be full of lofty words that are not typically spoken in a person's everyday vocabulary. Instead, prayer is to be heartfelt and should be normal conversational language between you and God. Prayer has no time length to it, nor is it confined to a time of day. Some prayers may be quick SOS prayers in the middle of the day at the office, and others are lengthier prayers of intercession on our knees in the middle of the night in the privacy of our home. In essence, prayer is simply communicating with God anywhere, anytime, and in any posture. 1 Peter 5:7. Peter wrote to us, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you. In Hebrews 4:16, one of my favorite verses about prayer says, let us then approach God's throne of grace with confidence so that we may receive mercy and find grace to help us in our time of need. God really wants to hear us, what's on our heart, what's bothering us, the battles that we face, and he should be the one that we go to first. I hope this has been an encouragement to you today. I look forward to seeing you next Monday. If you need more information about my book, would like to purchase one for yourself or for someone for Christmas, please go to my website, www.candyporostowski.com, and I will put that information in the comments as well. Have a blessed week, everyone. I look forward to seeing you next Monday.